What is up, everybody? I am here with Kevin Moody, the winner of the Pinstripe category at the 2025 Gold Standard Gecko Club and the 2024 Red Base category. So we got two championship belts right here, Kevin. What's good?
Hey, what's going on? Thanks for having me, David. Yeah, I mean the contests have been so fun. I'm happy
Yeah.
to have been a part of them last year and then this year. So it's always been a really good time. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
For sure, man. It's awesome to have you here. I appreciate you joining. The pinstripe category is always one of the most contested ones because everybody has like incredible pinstripes. So winning that category, especially this past year, kudos to you because I mean the gecko that won cash, that's a badass gecko, bro.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, the project kind of fell into my hands, and I've just been running with it. And it's been so fun because cash wasn't really expected. I was
Oh,
really, I just wasn't. The two
yeah.
animals kind of had more of that traditional dorsal pattern. Um, but we'll probably get into this. But like, I just think
Yeah.
there's some weird stuff going on with the scales that caused her to just bleed over the dorsal. So I
I
just think
think
there's some stuff going on.
I
So
think I've talked to some I've talked to Nicoletta, and I think we're
yeah,
talking about the same thing. But yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
definitely want to touch up on that. Before we begin, I just want to give a huge shout out to all the sponsors that made this happen: the show, the podcast, everything. First of all, Pangea has been great. I feel like every gecko breeder under the sun uses Pangea to some degree. They have some of the best gecko diet. Zoomed, Zoomed products, man. I remember the first time I ever like got a bearded dragon, like when I was like, I don't know, in my 14, 13 years old. The first couple products I got were all Zoomed, and Zoomed has been around forever. They're one of the most trusted companies in regards to the reptile world. And of course, Palm Street. Palm Street has been changing the way that gecko breeders sell geckos. For the longest time, honestly, I've been around in this hobby and I've never seen anything like Palm Street. The live streaming is a game changer. So if you have geckos, you want to sell them, get on Palm Street. They are amazing, and the platform is easy to use and just awesome. All right, y'all, and one more sponsor that I forgot. TikisGeckos, guys. Fucking Tiki. Without TikisGeckos, none of this would be possible. All right.
Good catch, good catch, good catch.
Yeah, you can't forget that one. So Kevin, bro, I have admired your geckos for a long time. I think you produce some of the craziest like pinstripes with nice high white big head structure. I got, especially the past couple of days, I feel like I've been seeing a lot of Bigfoot offspring, everybody posting their Bigfoot offspring. I'm like, damn, I don't have my Bigfoot offspring yet, so I definitely got to get one soon. But yeah, man, what would you say is like your favorite thing to breed in terms of crested geckos? Like what's your go-to morph or project that you have?
What have I worked with in the past or what I'm most
No,
excited about?
no, right now, like what you like the best, what are you most excited about?
It's really tough to be a gecko breeder right now, man, because there's so many options out there and there's so many really cool projects that I myself have a really hard time choosing what I like the most. And I've been doing this for over a decade.
Yeah,
It's kind of crazy how far it's come, but I it's gonna sound like almost like a line that's I'm being fed, but my Bigfoot stuff. It
yeah,
changes so much, and I think that that's the coolest part is when they hatch out, they look awesome, and then every step of the way they get better.
yeah,
They're never letting you down. They age like fine wine. They only get better the older they get. Their heads kind of flop over. They're real stocky animals. The color, the contrast. Um,
yeah,
it's just a culmination of a lot of years of work from not only like myself, but like the people that I inherited pieces of the project from. So I do have to give my flowers to like Noah Bounds. He was the one who acquired Bigfoot's sire. His name's Oxford. And
yeah,
then, Oxford was from some OG animals, Socrates and Karma, and so we're on generation what 5 now for the line, and that's what you get when you put in that hard work. So it's been really amazing, and yeah, I love it. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I've got like 10 animals that I don't know if I'm going to be able to let go because they keep changing, they keep getting better. So it's been a lot
Yeah,
of
they could be deceiving, especially all that drippy and white stuff. It's like when they hatch out, they may look like, nice pinstripes, but when they start, a couple months in, you start to see that white start to come in, the
yeah,
drip coming in, and it's
yeah,
like they don't hatch out with all that drip. That's what people don't understand.
right.
They
I
want
know.
they look at Bigfoot and they're like, I want that. And
Yeah,
they're like, well, that's gonna be like that. You just have to wait and be patient and
yeah,
trust me because it definitely, the progression on these animals is insane.
yeah.
So
Crazy. It's totally it's just you almost like when I go to shows now, I almost bring like a loop with me to tables if I'm
yeah,
like looking to see how an animal might progress, just to see if I can even see the smallest inclining of pattern because it can be there, but like you really have to have a trained
yeah,
eye for it.
yeah,
So that's actually kind of what makes it fun though too, because I've had some people who put their faith in me and they're like, I trust you, and it's like, okay, cool, like you get to ride the wave then. You get the
yeah,
best part. You get the animal from this big, and
yeah.
then
And you don't
just
and you
see
don't have to pay adult prices.
it. Well, exactly. Well, and
Yeah,
I think the best part about this is the maturation of a project, right? Like I've only ever gotten burned when I lost faith in something I was doing,
yeah,
but if you have the patience to see it through until that animal becomes an adult, you can really set yourself up for a lot of success. You just have to be patient, and that's the name of this game. I think is just patience and having foresight.
100%. I can't tell you how many times people get into this and they think it's like a gig for whatever reason. They think it's a get quick, rich, quick scheme,
Yeah,
but it's far from it. And that's why, you see yourself 10 years in the game or more. Myself, I've been also in the game for a long time. And it's like, I see a lot of breeders that come, they buy up a bunch of nice animals, but then they don't have that, like, that stamina, let's say, that stamina
right,
that keeps them through, for years to come, and that patience that comes with it because you may want to, produce those high white geckos. Now we got lily whites and stuff, but back then, oh
right.
man, that was gonna take you some time. So going back to what you mentioned earlier, is like a lot of us do, like, we gotta thank the breeders previous to us, because a lot of the work that we have today is thanks to the stuff that we've built up on, right?
Totally.
So it's a good point to make, and yeah, I love that kind of stuff. You know me, bro. I mean, we geek out about this stuff all the
Right,
time,
exactly.
and it's the lineage and all that, how we could track it back, and that's why it's important to go with good breeders that know what they're doing, and that are not just like kind of like trying to make money,
Yeah, I don't ever think that there's anything wrong with making some money. I know you
No,
and we
listen,
love
yeah,
it.
don't get me
But
wrong.
yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. You can't just expect to like throw down 20 grand and double your money.
Exactly.
One, no one knows who you are. And a lot of this is based off of building trust within the community. You
Yeah.
can come in and know what you're doing, but if no one has an idea of how you handle your animals, what your collection looks like, if you're experienced enough with it, how you're housing those animals, what's your shipping etiquette, all those things go into it, and building that reputation is huge. And so, if anyone was looking to get money, what I always say is like, start small, but do it with really large intention and just slowly build. Because everybody that I've met, a lot of people who, they get into this and it's like this whole world opens up of reptiles
Yeah.
and then
Yep.
crustaceans. And there's so much available that it's like, well, I need that and I need this and I need that and I need this. And you look around and you've got 15 animals. And for somebody just starting, 15 can, if you start breeding, you get 10, 20, 30 babies that first year. If you've got a couple females, you're at 45, 50 animals then. Have you moved any? Oh, you're still breeding. They're still laying eggs, and those numbers climb really fast. So take your time, really enjoy it, get to know the people who are in the industry. I mean, it's been a blast. I mean, when I first met David, I fangirled him really hard. I'll admit it. I did. I did. But it's those moments where you get to flip over that rock and meet people because you're doing things the right way. It's really rewarding. It's just a really rewarding.
Hobby.
hobby business, however you want to
Business, yeah.
call it.
Yeah,
It
and I want to clarify, like, I mean, I'm a capitalist through, like,
right.
no, of course, no questions about it. But I think that when it comes to animals, you do have to do this passion first and then business, because I've just seen people that just look at it from the business point of view and don't realize that it's not a product that you just leave on a shelf and, like, you could go on vacation for 10 days or whatever. It's like there's a lot that goes into it, and animals die, animals get sick, animals don't breed like you thought they would, they won't produce like you think they will. So it just, there's so many little nuance, like, issues that could come up, that it could break those people that think, oh, I'm just going to do this to make money. But definitely, if you love this stuff, this is the best way to make a living. I think it's like a blessing, because you get to do what you love every single day.
Totally.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Now, Kevin, let's circle back to cash. All right. The
All right.
winner, the winner
All
of the
right.
pinstripe category. I want to know a little bit more about the lineage. And then you mentioned something about her scalation that I want you to touch up on. So let's dig into that.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I can give you a genetic rundown
Hmm.
for all my lineage heads. Put your hats on. Starts with Socrates, Karma. Um, just a really unique pairing of animals. It was just when our understanding of what was going on in the dorsal was really kind of rudimentary. It was like, let's see if we can keep this thing all together, right? And because that was the goal when breeding pinstripes, it was taking animals who had more connected dorsals and breeding them to like animals to see if we could get that 100%. Because like when I came in, like a 99, 100% pinstripe was like top tier. Like it was
Hmm.
that animal. People were losing their minds for it because it just was the epitome of what was cutting edge at that time. And so Thomas, can't remember his last name, Georgia Geckos. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about.
I do.
He had Socrates and Karma, and then they produced a bunch of beautiful animals. They're super well known. Sticky side up geckos. She really worked that line really hard. And then Noah, founds of Oaklanta Zoological, and Logan Wooderson of the, I can't remember his company name. The
I don't
Gecko.
know. Yeah, I'm the worst.
Oh, but his name was Logan, and
Logan, man.
they co-owned Oxford. Logan got out, so then Noah bought his portion, or some with the way that they worked it out is Noah then owned him, and so then Oxford was breeding at Amy's Critter Closet for a while, and then I actually have two animals from Oxford. They're half siblings. I co-own the female with Noah, and then I own Bigfoot outright. So Noah was
Okay.
really like my whole intro to the Bigfoot project. He like, and that's what it happens when you build really good relationships with people. Is like, unfortunately, you are put in a position where like you can get those animals that don't necessarily become offered in public. And I hate to say it, but it happens.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it happens for a reason. The people who are producing these animals want to know that you're not a flash in a pan, like we talked about. They want to know that that animal is not only going to be cared for, it's going to thrive, and it's going to breed, right? Because sometimes animals just disappear and
Hmm.
their genetics disappear with it, and they were producing unique animals. And so, me personally, the way that I look at it is I like to get them into friends' hands or well known clients because that animal will do really well for them. And so, um, I got Bigfoot, and then I had gotten a female from Allie at Hidden Valley Geckos,
Hmm.
and that female was produced out of her male Johnny Cash, who was actually imported
Excellent.
by Estlin, who's your boy, which is kind of cool because I really looked up to Estlin when I got into all of this. He was producing some insane stuff. I mean, he's killing it now with the hog nose, so
Yeah.
like he stopped, he just switched species. And then I think her name is Medusa. It's gonna be bad if I don't get the name right. But Sam produced her, and so
Yeah.
she's an empty back. And then Cash was, I don't think he had anything going on in his dorsal. And so that female that I had from that pair was like a het empty back. I think a lot of people would call it, where she's kind of got the zipper down the back. And so her and Bigfoot got together and produced Cash. And I think what you would look at if you looked at both animals and knowing their lineage, I can't remember what I named Cash's mom, but I think she was like het for whatever they're calling it. I think they're calling it scatter scale still.
Yeah.
Scale. And so I think that Cash's mom was het scatter scale, and then I think Bigfoot was het scatter scale, and then we got her, which is a visual scatter scale. And I think that's what's really critical with the dorsal, the way that it like melted, was that there's enough space between the scale so that pigmentation is coming through. And so um, I'm really excited about the future of the project now that I kind of am looking at it in a different way. And I owe a lot of that to Dan and Nicoletta. I mean, they
Yeah.
took the time to look at that, and I've been trying to apply it to my own collection. I've been having really good results. So,
And I want to mention that scatter scale is what was referred to as soft scale before, but then there's this whole confusion thing about like AC not calling it soft scale anymore. Then Nicoletta and Dan, they were really the ones who kind of like put in the work to figure out exactly what was going on, and they came up with scatter scale. So that's what we're calling it now. Regardless, it is the separation of the scales that seem to enhance color, or just the overall look of the animal. And there's still some other stuff that I'm sure that's going on in there that we're not fully understanding, but it is super interesting because just when you think like you have something figured out, then somebody like Dan and Nicoletta come out and they just put this on the table, and you're like, oh wait, this could alter this look, and it just throws you into this whole like rabbit hole of like wanting to
right,
figure out what that does with all the different colors and patterns, and
right.
you know.
Because I mean, and to me, I'm a person of I want to know the why, and I think I share that amongst a lot of keepers. Is we want to know what's going on,
Right.
because if it's different enough, there's got to be something driving it. Our world really isn't as random as people might like to think it is. And so taking the time to figure those things out was tremendous. And so I owe them a lot of how they flipped my way of thinking about things. Because I met Anthony. I met him at the one Tinley that he did. I think it was like 4 years ago, 5 years ago at this point. At a big booth. Got to talk to him. He's so nice. And I really do think he was onto something with the soft scale, because I saw those. He had homozygous animals in person, and there's definitely a different look to them. But I don't know if people are necessarily getting the inheritable results with the way that it was disclosed to have worked. And Dan just kind of took it to a whole nother level where, and Nicoletta, I should give credit to both, because it was their photographs and utilizing mathematics in a way that I very rarely see with reptiles, in a way
Yeah.
to describe what was going on. And I grabbed onto their thesis, and I liked their hypothesis, and it was great. It was really good. So kudos to them. But that's kind of how
Yeah.
we're looking at the project going forward in a lot of ways, is with that lens on how we're choosing partners. And I
Gotcha.
think that you'll
So,
see a lot of that come to fruition this season with her half brother.
okay, so now when you're so moving forward with like your breeding projects, now that you're learning and you know a lot of these things, are you gonna gear it more towards like kind of like scatter scale stuff and trying to see what it does with more drippy animals, or what do you, or is that just kind of like a side thing and you're gonna continue to produce badass pinstripes and extreme harlequins? What I know your answer is gonna be like everything, but
I'm very fortunate. I've gotten to watch a lot of people that I look up to build a project.
yeah.
I think one of the things that I really ultimately looked at was actually how Brian Butler handled his exam. And so this is where being in this for a long time comes in really handy, because you get to see how people handle problems that you might one day get to handle. And I really looked up to the way Brian, handled it. And I, even when I met him, the first words out of my mouth were, I have the utmost respect for the way that you managed that project because you nailed it. You nailed that release of the Aanthic gene and how you slow rolled it, and you made sure that you were cutting edge. And for me, I kind of take the same approach with Bigfoot. If somebody's knocking down the door for something, there's a reason, and maybe you should figure it out. And so I have been fortunate enough to retain Bigfoot, 5 daughters from Bigfoot, and then a cutting edge male I had held back from him. And then I've also been able to stack 3 supporting males from outcrosses, where now I have 4 different groups that then I can kind of weave in and out of each other, and it's that time and patience to put together a project that really kind of separates the breeders, because it
Right.
takes a while to source animals, like a really long time if you're looking for particular stuff, especially when it comes to like having the right gender. Unfortunately, especially because a lot of the times with these cutting edge animals that you really want to get your hands on, sometimes they're sold on sets or you're looking at them
Hmm.
yourselves and they flip on you. And so we've had a lot of luck our way, but I think a lot of planning um, went into all of it. And so the groups that I have going, I like to think that they might have something going on with the scales, but I'm not really sure. I'm also trying to see empty back and how that works within my own collection to kind of prove out some stuff. So I really like to. I look at this as a creative outlet for me. So a lot of the times, as much as I would like to say I know what I'm doing, I don't always know what I'm doing, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
You just have to try different things. The most credit I give people are those people who go out on a limb and do stuff that people haven't worked for years. I mean, we were talking about Brian Who's tigers at
Yeah.
Fort. I mean, I had never seen anything like it, and but yet people clowned them for forever. But they're killer if you put the time in. And so, um,
You have to have the vision.
totally, it's 100% a vision. Um, I like to look at it as I like to think I'm the only one who sees the maybe it's a shared vision. I'm not really sure, but yeah, you have to have the passion, the foresight. There's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think
So
it's throwing together 2 animals, and it's not that simple.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the like what I love about like for example with Brian, you brought up Brian. It's like we talked about it's like tigers were like just wholesale animals. Everybody overlooks
Yeah,
them. And when I got into crested geckos, that was like one of the few like morphs that we had were like tigers, flames, whatever, Dalmatians, but nothing like today.
right.
And it's so overlooked. The pinstripes came, the extreme harlequins. Then you start getting like crazier stuff, lily whites, and all these things. And people forget about those like beginner morphs, but then you could see what you could do when somebody like Brian puts their focus in it and
Yeah,
starts to like just line like I don't want to say line breed, but selectively breed for a particular look that he already kind of like imagines. And
yeah.
the end result, nobody, like you said, some people might clown him or whatever, but then when you see that the end result, you're like, oh, okay, now I want one of those.
Well, right.
So
Yeah,
so
exactly.
so you have to kind of like, especially that I think some of the best breeders out there have that where they have that vision of where they want to take their project, and step by step they go there. Now that brings me to my next question for you is what do you think about line breeding versus selective breeding? Because line breeding would be kind of like breeding similar related animals. It could be as closely related as a sire to an offspring, or it could be a sire to a grand offspring, or even further down the line. Now a lot of people don't like that, and a lot of people think it's okay, depending on what you're doing. Like for example with Asiatics, like that was like the most I want to say like that the most effective way to produce Axanthics in the beginning, especially. But what are your thoughts on line breeding or versus selective breeding? When do you selectively breed a particular look versus when do you line breed for something that you're for that look that you're working on?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think you should ever go into a breeding and not be participating in selective breeding.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's that. I mean, it's just it's a non-negotiable. You have to be breeding with a purpose, especially
Right.
with a species like crested geckos, gargoyles, chihua, lichias. I mean, really any species across the board, because as the breeder, it is on you to make sure that you are offering and perpetuating animals who exceed the standard or at least come up to the standard for what we consider to be a healthy, thriving animal. And so that comes down to a lot of the things. And that's why I was so honored slash excited about being part of what you're putting together. And I think that's why you and I geek out all the time when we see each other, is because the way that we view the world, especially through reptiles, is that um, there are non-negotiables like that. And so like body, head structure, weight, length, snout length, eyes position, color quality, pattern quality, all of those things you always need to be mindful of. Now, can you get away with some things because the animal is exceedingly nice and one that your project might be lacking? Yeah, for a generation, I would say you can turn a blind eye to it and get away with it because a lot of things you can correct. Like the Gilpins did a study where like color quality is kind of temperature dependent, right? So that animal, if you're getting a bright red animal with poor crest structure, well, you kind of have an inkling that that animal might have been incubated kind of, right? So you can go and you can fix that. Now with line breeding, um, I think it comes down to conserving genetics. That's why I utilize it at least. And it goes back to kind of like these animals that go missing. Like I've been around long enough to where things happen, animals within collections, animals die, things go sideways. You've heard all the stories. I'm not gonna throw anybody's names out there because that's I'm never gonna speak an ill word about somebody, but it's happened where large portions of collections have died, and the genetics kind of end there, and it's really unfortunate. And so with my breeding, especially with Bigfoot, my intention was to get really high quality copies of what was going on genetically, especially with the white spotting, alive and on the ground, and then into other collections subsequently, and then outcross at least for two, maybe three generations. Because at that point, you should have a solid enough foundation, at least in my opinion, to go forward. And so, I mean, that was even the strategy when the animals first came in the country. It was such a small collection of animals that like you didn't really want to know if they were related or not, unfortunately, because it was all about perpetuating the species. And
Yeah.
that was once extinct, you've got this super rare opportunity to get them an animal that was on the precipice of extinction into the reptile hop. We all know, especially with like those that are active in US ARC, how quickly CITES can get involved. And then that animal's impossible to source, and their genetic pool just goes like this. And it's really scary. And so, um,
I mean, look no further than the New Caledonian geckos. We can't import
right.
them anymore.
Yeah, the Trachyranchus and the greater and lessers, and you've even got the New Zealand species. And so, I know people get really hung up with like line breeding, and they're like, oh, like that's wrong, or this, that, and the other. There's enough of them in captivity to do that. I look at it kind of like I'm a ball python breeder in a lot of ways, where it's like, let me prove what's going on genetically, and then I don't need it. It's not necessary. But if you're trying to prove something out, then a lot of times it's the quickest way to see if a project has any legs to stand
Right.
on. So,
And there's a
so
responsible way of doing it,
exactly.
right? So people have to, you know, if first of all, if you are into any reptiles and you're into the morphs are a product of line breeding. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Albino ball pythons, pied ball pythons, horn snakes, bearded dragons,
Owls.
you
Yeah.
name it. It's just the way it is. Reptiles genetically are a little bit more resilient
Mhm.
than some mammals because a lot of these species come from a very small location, right? Some, like for example, like the electric blue day geckos, the amount of land that they come from is so small. They're all constant. They're all endemic to that small part of
Right.
Tanzania, and the genetic pool is just what's in that little tiny space. So naturally, and a lot of the island geckos, from all the different islands,
Totally. Yeah.
so it is a little bit different when it comes to reptiles, but at the same time, us as breeders, and one of the things that I want to highlight, especially with the Gold Standard Gecko Club, is that we have to look beyond just color and pattern. We have to start paying attention and notice. Okay, you can line breed, do it carefully, but keep an eye on the animals. Make sure they're healthy. Make sure their
Right.
size is up to par. Make sure there's no like weird deformations popping up, because you don't want to kind of like, you know, not look at that stuff and keep breeding for that look. And then 10
Right.
years down the line, you have a messed up, like a genetically fucked up animal, to say it.
Right.
And
To put it in
bluntly,
layman's
to
terms,
say
yeah.
it bluntly,
Just put
yeah.
it out there, yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree, and you're absolutely 100% right with the genetics in these small isolated populations. I mean, that's how speciation happens, and then that's where these localities derive it from, is because you get these unique populations that become isolated for one way or another, whether it's like a canyon, a fallen tree in some cases can isolate a population, where then they start breeding within how many ever species are available. And you got to think that, like, if you look at this as a larger view, right, islands have not always been islands, or if they have, those animals got there some way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, they can definitely. I forgot the stat. I forgot. I think I was talking to AJ about what degree you can go to without seeing genetic defects start to arise within reptiles, as opposed to like the threshold that mammalian genetics has. But it was night and day different.
Yeah.
Mammals can't handle hardly any inbreeding, where these reptiles, it's like they don't care. It's really a thing of beauty when you think about the resilience that these life forms have developed and harnessed over years, where they can just, oh, we're fine, we're good, four of us, we're
Yeah.
good, we're fine, we're a new species now. What'd you think? Like, it's crazy to think about. And so I think I think I'm okay with line breeding. I mean, like, I've done it myself, but you're absolutely right when it comes down to, you have to understand all the nuance points and you have to make a decision for yourself. And I think transparency with your client base is massive. I got a lot of pushback from it, but I think those people respected me more by my transparency. And then I was open to questions. Have a dialogue. Let's talk about it. That's how we all learn.
Right.
Let's not jump down people's throats. Like, I saw you the other day with your story. I mean, I love it. I just love the energy. I was gonna wear my shirt. I totally forgot to put it on. But if we could all just give ourselves just a little bit of slack, because we're all keepers. Like, yeah, the gargoyle's probably laying eggs. One was infertile. It's going in the garbage anyways. Like, it's just some of
the
these moments. So,
the thing is, you have to be open to discussing a topic without
absolutely,
insulting each other. The second,
absolutely,
to in my mind at least, the second you insult me, or you say, you don't care about your geckos, or you're doing this for views or whatever, I'm gonna
Mhm.
throw the fuck out of you. Like, I'm just gonna, like, like, it's just, it's who I am. I'm just too, like, this is my livelihood. I love these animals. I dedicate my
Right.
whole life to these animals. And it's just for some random person on the internet to look at a video, 10-second video on the internet, and tell me that I don't care about my animals because I did this, when clearly the animal's not stressed out. There's,
Mhm.
whatever. It's just like, I just want to go like hard on these people and just it's fun to me. But you know, it's true though. We have to have an open discussion as long as we keep it respectfully. Remember, we're all adults, right? We could talk
Yeah,
about things without getting upset. And it is an interesting topic because there's no getting away from it. Like you might want to turn a blind eye to it, but that doesn't mean it's not happening and that the animals you have aren't a product of that. So you're gonna have to face it one way or another.
totally. I completely agree. I mean, I still remember when I first got into this, and I shouldn't say first got into it, but like really put both feet in and was like, okay, I'm gonna put some real skin in the game. I had purchased a few animals, and one of the females was like 95 grams. I'm not kidding. Her head's like the size of a silver dollar. It's crazy. Um, but I posted a photo of her, and she's just like this chunky, massive gecko. And do you know how their fat deposits kind of look like extra skin? Well, I posted a photo of her, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe how you let your animal get obese, this, that, and the other." And I deleted it because I'm like, I don't want any part of this. But it's because no one wanted to talk to me and understand where that animal had come from. I wasn't the one who raised it. I just had acquired it. Of course, she's going to go on a diet, but like just like people, geckos can get fat. Geckos can be underweight. Geckos can be dehydrated. But like, there's no need to jump down people's throat, especially when they're struggling and they have the courage to come out and be like, "This is not going well. Can you help me?" And sometimes there's the reflex where you just want to criticize, but maybe just taking that 5 seconds to step back and be like, "No, maybe I can help
Exactly.
and help further the education that I think is so good for this community because there's a lot of good that comes from asking questions."
At the end of the day, this is how I think about it. At the end of the day, your criticism isn't going to help that gecko. So there may be something in your ego that you want to yell at somebody for not doing things right and not knowing everything you know. But if you truly care about the animal, then you have to set that aside and give them the advice because it's very hard to take advice from somebody that just called you a dumbass 10 seconds ago, right? So
Yeah,
you have
absolutely.
to you have to take that in consideration and if you do care about the animals then put that aside, you
Totally.
know, and give them advice. But Kevin, so I want to ask you, I've been
All
asking
right.
everybody this,
All right.
if what are your non-negotiables whenever you acquire a new gecko or you're keeping, you know, you have holdbacks? What are your non-negotiables as far as the geckos? Like, does it have to have, you know, A plus structure, or does it have to have like can it be like does it have to be a bigger gecko, or the color have to be up to your standard? What are your non-negotiables when holding back or buying geckos?
I gotta see some parents. Show me those photos. That's really where it starts and ends with me because uh I
This
just
is this is an episode for the lineage people.
it is. I mean, that's how I grew up in this game. Unfortunately, like our mutual good friend Gabby of Morph Menagerie, she always teases me because she's like, "Just ask Kevin. He's an encyclopedia. He'll tell you the great grandparents and who owned them because that's how crazy it was for a
Yeah.
while in the buying community. If you didn't know your stuff, you weren't getting that animal because that
Yeah.
animal was going in 5 minutes and it was going for money it had never gone for in the past. And you either were like, here's the money and press send, or you had to do all the groundwork yourself. And so that's why I'm so heavy in it because I got into this before lilies were even publicly available. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember seeing your video of when you got yours, and I was like, I, I lost it because it was the coolest animal I had ever seen to that date. And even you geeked out in that video because it was something we had all been waiting for. We all knew there was a list. We all knew that the day was coming soon and people were going to start having them. And then they got stateside. And then things took off like wildfire. And the whole world opened up as far as like South Korea, us, Europe. I mean, it just got crazy with the Lily White. And I
Yeah.
think that was like a kicking off point. was the lily white. And so,
It took it to that next level.
yeah, it was crazy. It was just so crazy back then.
And honestly, to this day, it's still one of my favorite morphs. It's
Oh,
hard to beat a lily white.
I mean, absolutely, and then you've got the cappuccino being proved out, and then that marriage between the lily white and the cappuccino, it's just perfection.
Yeah.
I got a frappuccino with Nicole from Ruby's Reptiles, and you know, he's one of my favorite animals to look at because he's just everything you wanted or hoped for one day in an animal. It's those people
Yeah,
who have that
dude,
vision. You're like, dude, this would be so sick, and now it's
dude,
here.
dude. Remember, like, I just remember, like, any gecko back before cappuccinos, back before lily whites. Like, if your gecko had fringing, you were like the fucking
You were
coolest
goat. You were
person
goaded.
ever.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
absolutely.
if you had that white fringing, like
Oh
kudos
yeah.
to those people back then that had the white
Well,
fringing
Barb.
before.
I mean, like our mutual
Yeah,
friend
Barb.
Barb, Mama. She is the OG of tricolors
She's
with
yes,
fringe. I mean,
yes,
if you ask anyone overseas and a lot of times in the U.S. who their animals descend from, if they've got killer tries, it's probably Barb.
it's Barb. Yeah,
I got to give her flowers. She's such a wonderful person, and
I
her
love her.
animals are just top tier because they hold that orange. They
Yes,
really hold that crisp orange color, and they have such unique scalation. They're almost like those old school. I don't want this term is used for other things now, but they used to call them furries, right? Like, it wasn't that what
yes.
wasn't that what they were called?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's what they reminded me of. But they're such unique animals, and so like yeah, that was the cutting edge. But like and I think maybe because I'm like a history buff, I like Lineage because like I love history. um I love talking just like why things are and where things came from because I think it's important to pay respect and a lot of times to where things have come from,
Yeah.
because someone had to set the foundation, and anybody who doesn't know Barb, she'll be at Tinley. She's always at Tinley. Stop by her booth. Tell her that you love her tries. She'd love it. I just don't think she gets enough love.
I think the thing is that the new generation of breeders, like the new influx of breeders of I call them COVID breeders, like all these new breeders that came
That's
up
fair.
in the COVID time, which is nothing wrong with it. We all come in
No,
at one point, but they are not as familiar with the older breeders, the foundation breeders, let's
right,
call them. Like Barb is definitely a foundation breeder for tricolors. Like there
yeah,
ain't no more foundation than her right now,
right.
with tricolors. And yeah, it's crazy because there a lot of us are still around, but there's like Barb is not as like social media savvy, so people don't get to know her as much. But she's
Yeah.
an awesome person, and she to this day produces some of the best tricolors, I would say.
Oh yeah, totally,
Yeah,
100%. I mean,
like the distinction of color, white, orange and dark, and like dark base animals.
yeah. I'm thankful enough that she's local to me, so I can go see her whenever I want. Which is kind of cool. Also, too, about like this whole thing is that kind of was like a grassroots movement occurring at the same time across the United States because, like, Eslen, right? Like, you had this whole
Yeah,
faction down in like Florida and the South,
yeah,
and then you had some people going hard on the East Coast, and then you had the Midwest crew like Gilpins and all of them, and then you had Ashley and Scaredy Cat Geckos, and so
yeah.
you know,
In the West Coast.
yeah, you had these grassroots movements, and over time, it's gone from the U.S. to now global, and it's just been really cool. It's been a really cool ride, and I wish
Yeah,
people talked about where it came from more because I think that there's like an excitement to it that you just to see where things have come from and where they can go. I mean, like I've
yeah.
been
And
to
how far?
Germany
How
now.
long?
Like what?
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely, bro. Dude, I love this stuff. Like, it's so funny because there's very few people that I could sit down and talk about like the history of our hobby and stuff.
Yeah,
And obviously, you're one of them. Now, where do you? So, we touched on fraps and stuff. What
yeah.
what what other morphs are you excited to work with and excited about the future? Like what morphs do you see that you're like, dang, I think this is gonna be really, really cool in 10 years.
Um, Wow, that's a really good question. Um, I'll be interested to see what happens with this whole Chocho thing. If I'm being honest. I saw them in
Yeah,
person and they're so different. They're just like their whole color palette is like if you put your phone on vignette. Like everything's like rusty reds, like patinaed white, dark blacks, but the eyes are red. Like they're just so unique. And so I'll be interested to see what then that does with like a Xanthic, right? Because a Xanthic will tell you kind of how it's augmenting the color. And then with a Xanthic, you'll have those revered double recessives. And then let's
yeah.
say someone brings in Phantom, you're going to have your triple recessives. So I'm excited to see how people start stacking. Like I invested into the Axanthic project with a Sable Axanthic because I really wanted to make really nice heads. I feel like just getting tag Axanthic in everything at this point because for your customer and a lot of people they want that surprise. And so I think
Yeah.
that that's another future thing is to tag on Axanthic. I think Chochos are super cool. I saw
And
this.
they're recessive.
Yeah, and they're recessive, which is really good from like a business perspective because I can't just look at it pure passion. I have to also kind of skew it to where it's like, is this a good financial move? What's the play? So yeah, I'm a little behind on the Axanthic game. I got to tell you, there's been a lot of people cleaning up with it. I didn't see the vision for it, and now I kind of see the vision for it. So that's exciting. I mean, the animals are so dark. I mean, they're so, and
Yeah,
you can kind of play with the darkness, or even the hypoazanthics are sweet. Hypo lily azanthics
they're
are
like purpley.
one of my favorite morphs. I really want to see someone make hypo azanthic fraps. I think those will be sick. I
I
have
may
a.
make some next year.
Are you? I'm jealous.
Maybe,
They'll be sick.
maybe we'll see. I have some. I have a frap head Xanthic that I'm gonna put with one of my hypo Xanthic males. We'll see.
Nice. Well, yeah. So what I was going to say is I invested in the Xanthic. I picked up a Sable Xanthic male visual. So then hopefully I can make those really nice het sables, or even if I can, or I'm hoping I can come across some Xanthics or het Xanthic females to make visual sables just like I have. So I don't really
Yeah,
love sable lilies. I think they're super hard to identify. Like
compared to
a
like
frat.
fraps. Yeah,
Yeah, I think they're super hard to identify because especially when it comes down to like lily white single genes with some like of the higher end breedings because they're doing the same thing to the head. So it gets a little fishy and I always think that that's not always great for like project building because you want the animal to be unique enough to where someone will point at it and be like, that's a Deadpool kid. That's a Bigfoot kid. You want
yeah,
that because it helps build your personal brand. You
yeah.
want identifiables.
That's when like someone like you that is hyper focused on lineage is, you know, that's when, like, for example, 10 years down the line, I'm looking for a sable lily white. I know I could go to somebody like you and be like, all right, he's gonna know that this is for sure a sable lily white and not
Right.
a frappuccino,
Totally.
right? So that's when, like, that kind of stuff as a buyer, because I mean we're breeders but we're also buyers at the
Yeah,
end of the
we've done
day.
business for sure.
So we care about that stuff because we care about lineage, and down the line you don't want to, like, let's say you have a sable lily white or what's sold to you as a sable lily white, and then it ends up being something it's not, and your whole project's down the drain. It
Right.
just throws a monkey wrench in that project.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's where that reputability comes in. Um, that's not to say I'm not excited about sables. It's
right.
just they're far more nuanced, especially with fraps. And if you're missing the phantom gene, then it gets really tricky. So yeah, I mean, um, it'll be exciting. If anyone's really curious about what the market's doing, or if they're like they want to kind of know what the morphs are doing as far as like market wise, you're not familiar with fetal, just go take a look.
Yeah,
Just see how things are being valued elsewhere because I'm a big proponent of doing market research, especially if you're gonna like $1,500, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. That's a ton of money. And
Yeah.
so you want to be able to forecast where that's going to be going. And so, morphs are hot, but lineage is timeless.
Yeah. I like that. That's our slogan now.
Yeah,
More so hot, but lineage is timeless.
totally. I mean, it's the truth. I mean, like, I get, to get an animal to look the way that some of these animals are looking today, and I'm blessed enough to have a few of them without any morphs and just selective breeding. It's a
It's
testament.
crazy.
It's a testament to what selective breeding does.
Bro. No lie. I was looking, like you sent me pictures of Cash. I
Yeah,
was like zoomed in on like her laterals, and I'm like, if somebody just showed me this, I'd be like, that's a lily white.
totally, 100%.
And it's the craziest thing is like people that come into the hobby now don't understand how freaking hard it was to get to that point because with a
Totally.
lily white you can get that in one generation no problem, but
Yeah,
that's what makes it that much more like that much more, just so much more enjoyment out of that animal when like how far it's come,
yeah,
how many generations it took to get to that point.
yeah. And and all those relationships that you built along the way and all the people that you met. I think that's the best part about lineage is that you have to go meet people. You have to go talk to them. You have to
Yeah.
build a relationship because it's just like business 101. You need to be first top of mind with that
Right.
person. And I'm not to say you should go meet somebody to use them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying as breeders, we all kind of have a common goal, which is to produce the best animals. And the more people that you have that are in your corner and know what you're working with, you guys can help each other out. Like, I can't tell you how many times I'll have people come to me and they're like, "Oh, I'm looking for so and so." I know 12 people who are working with that and killing it. And it's because we've had the chance to meet each other. We've um, overlapped professionally at shows. I've seen what they do. I've had people tell me how nice they like their animals. And so, of course, I'm going to send them to that person. And that's the beauty of this is that this is a people first, business second
Yeah.
kind of sector of the business world, and especially animals.
Yeah.
Sometimes money does talk, but with this, you look at the really rare stuff. I mean, you were just at Johnny's house. He's not going to let that stuff just go to anybody who's got a big pocket because he gets one. He gets one skink that he gets to give you, and it's going to mean the world to him because it took him 5 years to raise those animals from babies.
Yeah.
And that's where it becomes a really personal thing, and that's what's so cool about this.
Yeah.
Those are
Some of
one species within the realm of all of them, where the same thing happens. You go to these shows, and all these people are excited to see each other. They don't really
Yeah.
care about the animals on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, it's some of the best people I've met. Some of my better friends have come from the animal world, from the animal connections I've made. So I agree. It's one of the beautiful things that when you share a passion with somebody else, you just click on a different level, you
Totally.
know? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's seamless. I mean, like you met your wife through the animal world. I mean, like
Yeah, exactly.
I
Exactly.
mean, like it's been good to a lot of us. It's been good to me, and I wouldn't trade the experience for the world. Um,
Now talking about experience, bro, I want to ask you. I got
yeah,
because I'm getting away from these questions because our conversation's so good, but I gotta kind of like veer back to them.
cool. No worries. No worries.
So, so when it comes to your experience, because you have been here, in the hobby for a little longer than most people, um, what are some things that you could confidently say, you know, maybe don't do that way, or be careful with this, like some mistakes that you made in the beginning, maybe that you don't want to repeat, or you would advise people that are nerd like us, but maybe are starting off or in a different point of their journey. What should they look for? What should they do differently than maybe they think?
Um, well, I always say quality over quantity. That's like my hallmark statement: quality over quantity. Go to shows, meet people. People aren't as scary as they might come off. Because I know there's a lot of people who really love our content and like love that we're bringing to life this world for maybe people who can't attend those events. But if you can, I 100% encourage you to, because it'll be, if you're into this, it's the best thing that you can do. It's amazing. As far as like maintaining a collection, I would say if you're gonna do a loan, never send your mail out. Just don't do it. I trust
That's that golden advice right there from
I
Kevin.
trust so many people, and even the most trustworthy of people, you just don't know them 100%. And I think that things can go wrong, and males are worth their weight in gold. One female can only breed to one male. One male can breed to a lot of females. I'm not gonna say, Johnny number 22 or whatever, but I'm not gonna go there. But you can breed a lot of females. If
Yeah.
you time it out right and you go the whole year. So I hope some people got that reference.
People will try. If they've listened
Okay,
this far,
okay,
they're
yeah,
the hardcore.
they know they're the hardcore. Okay, um, yeah. So just don't. I would never send out a mail. And then if you are going to participate in a loan, put a contract together. I had Emily Burke actually. I'll name drop because she's a great friend and I adore her. And she produces the best animals. But I didn't really know Emily, and her and I agreed to a loan. And I was like, well, how can we protect each other? Because we're playing with big money animals right now. And so I drafted a contract. It was really cut and dry, but basically it just walked through every variable that you could think of under the sun. There was a clause for if the animal died, how much the animal would be valued at, what kind of care was going to be provided, if you would get updates if the eggs were laid, if they were hatched, like how that was going to go. And so I think it put us both at a lot of ease, and we had a really good working relationship after that because there was no stone left unturned, so you knew everything was going to go to protocol. And if it didn't, you had an actionable item that you could use. Because the animal that I had sent, we valued at 4 grand. It's not a small amount of money. That's
Right.
a small claim scored amount of money for some people. And so, especially if you look at it as that animal's worth 4 grand, but then how much her babies are, that could be a 10 grand kind of loss on your book of business for the year. So you have to be protected. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, it's not that serious. Well, for me, it is. For me, it is because I have
And
like,
that's what makes the difference between regular breeders and Gold Standard Gecko Club breeders. Let's fucking go.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you start throwing skin in the game, it gets a little dicey, and you gotta take it seriously because it's worth it.
Yeah.
You know,
No, 100%. Especially if you are, I'll tack on to that. Like, especially if you're doing breeding loans, because everybody's nice and friendly at first, but you never know how things can go sideways, and especially if, god forbid, something happens to the animal, then people are going to show their true colors. So uh do what Kevin did, chat gpt it, or just think
yeah,
about it, and come up with a contract, especially with somebody that you don't know. But that's great advice. I think, honestly, I wish, when I first, not when I first started, but in my early years, I did a breeding loan with a girl that I didn't know, and the terms weren't like set properly. So like when it came down to splitting babies, there was like a misunderstanding, and it didn't end up like all the animals were split, fairly and everything, but there was like a little bit of a sour taste. So
totally.
that is something that, if I would have heard this podcast, maybe I wouldn't have committed that mistake. So it's
Yeah,
definitely good advice.
yeah, yeah. Another piece of advice I would give is like co-owns are cool. Yeah, you can get to your goals a lot faster if you work with people that you trust, and that's another opportunity where you can kind of put together an agreement. I think more
Yeah.
people should work together. I think as long as and it's like you said, you're like, if I had only I had done that, you might have had a better experience.
Yeah.
And it's just those little attentions to detail that put people at ease enough where then they can really enjoy it, because a lot of times those co-owns or even the collabs, you're shooting for this animal and you're both going to geek out if you hit it. And then you're going to have your fingers crossed you hit two. And then if
Yeah.
it's plenty, then that relationship might continue for years.
Yeah.
I mean, my relationship with Emily lasted years where I hadn't seen my animal in 4 years because it was that solid of a working relationship and there was nothing left to question that she had my full trust.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that that's super important. And I think there's some really savvy business things that you can do as a collector if you want to turn it into a business or you want to work with a friend. Like you and Manny did it. I mean, like, look
Yeah.
at you guys. You guys built a brand. I mean, together and you're both passionate about animals. So it's cool. There's a lot of opportunity there for people who really want to make a go of this business wise, but you definitely have to CYA, as my dad
Yeah.
always said. You always got
Great,
to cover
great,
your ass.
great advice, dude. Great advice. That's you know, something I wish I would have heard when I was younger. Anyways, now going back to your collection
Yeah,
and just like when you're like looking through animals, what are rate these in the level of importance. So you have color, pattern, structure, and like temperament. Rate those from one being the most important to four being the least important.
I'll copy Tara, and I will say behavior is the least important on the list.
Everybody says that. I know. I get it. I do too.
Yeah,
To me, it's at least two. It's the last one, but
it's a luck of the draw. I think sometimes, and some people like to say that these animals don't have memories. I gotta tell you, some of my craziest animals are ones where it's been a freak accident where like maybe I pinched a toe and now every time I open that bin, they're like, not a chance, and they're gone.
yeah,
So I think they can be conditioned into it, but a lot of times I don't have issues with handability just because we're incubating at like 71, 72. I'm just like Tara. I mean, like I'm looking for like a closet with 71. I don't use an incubator. I use an incubator
right.
for my Chihuahua, but I don't utilize it for my crutch. So,
Yeah.
um,
So, what are your top three then?
so most important, I'm a real sucker for structure. I got to be really honest with you.
Yeah,
That's probably why I gravitated and ended up investing in like Bigfoot or like
yeah,
really pushing hard to get into that project, because there's just a visual appeal to a really nice wide dorsal that then ultimately splits into like a really nice wide head. Um, so I would say structure and then color and then pattern. I would say color is probably the second most important, especially because I have a tendency to get lavender animals. And so now it's like, okay, how do I make this black? Or how do I make this
yeah,
orange? And so understanding what color palettes you're trying to mix together really is a big, big thing. So
yeah.
I would say,
And people, the reason why I put like handleability in there and temperament is because we're doing the Gold Standard Gecko Club, and ultimately, our hobby, the base of our hobby is people keeping these animals as pets.
yeah,
When I look at dog shows or cat shows or whatever type of animal show, they always look at temperament of the animal. If you're taking showing your dog and your dog is like going crazy off leash or it bites a freaking judge or something, it's
right.
going to lower your score of the overall animal. Might even get you disqualified. Now,
Totally.
if we're not going to disqualify you if your gecko's crazy, but it's definitely going to score lower because as
Right.
we move forward in just the overall breeding, I
Mhm.
want to keep in mind that this is for the pet trade, and
Right.
we want, I mean, how awesome is a gecko that you could just put on a little kid's hand and they're just like mesmerized by it. that
Totally.
just that just in my case, that just changed my whole life. If that gecko would have been skittish, that might have not I would have not been here, maybe. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If that
Right.
gecko might have bit me, I might have not been here. So
Totally.
I think it is it's very underrated, and I get it why, because we're breeders and we already love the geckos. But I
Right.
think it's an important aspect that we should look into a little bit more.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it comes down to um, temperature and just like how you're raising that animal. I think enclosure type has a lot to do with it. Um,
Yes.
I think that, as awesome as these PVs, I'll stop.
Real
Okay,
quick,
go ahead.
just so I could explain something. When you say enclosure type and temperature, I actually haven't heard the temperature thing, so I want you to break it down to what you think. But
Yeah,
what I think you mean by enclosure type is that a gecko that's put in a big open enclosure, it's going to be very nervous. So
yeah,
if the gecko, it's a prey animal, and if it's already nervous and you go in there, it might just rattle it up more versus an animal that already feels secure in its home. When you go to
right.
take that animal out, it might be easier to handle, right? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, so right, size of the enclosure is a definite thing that can have a lot to do with it. Care and maintenance schedule has a lot to do with it. If you are engaging with that animal's going to get used to this, like shuffling stuff around. Like I dig for eggs with my females in the bin. Like I don't even separate them. I'm just
Yeah,
playing hot potato with them on the side while I'm going through the eggs. Because for me, that's fun. That's
yeah,
my
same.
enjoyment. I'm just like, oh, where's the treasure? Like, let me get this money. Unfortunately, that's how I look at it sometimes because it is a payday for me when these females lay. At least,
Right.
hopefully, they're fertile. But you get to play with these animals as they're, as I'm going through the lay box. And so, but also what I was referring to is actually with the advent of the PVC enclosure, right?
Okay.
I think I use Gecko Junkie enclosures, but that's not what I started with. I started with just like 56
Glass.
quart plastic
Oh
sterilite
goodness.
tubs, and I got to tell you, I swear by them. And the reason I like them so much is because one, you get a god's eye view of the enclosure, so you can actually really tell where the animal's digging instead of guessing. Two, they're a lot easier to maintenance, and the animals have to get used to you when they're in those basically there's only one clear panel. That animal is personally, I think that animal's going to be more startled by you going into that closure because they're not. When you lift up that tub, they feel that they're like, okay, I'm up.
Yeah, there's something.
I'm looking, and then they can
God.
comprehend. God, like, food, baby. What are we doing today? But in those other tubs, they just see you going back and forth, right? And then it's like all of a sudden they hear the latch and they panic. And I like to think of them as pinballs because you go, and that's
Right.
when they're really startled. And so that's kind of something, and you even see it with like Leachianus. I've even talked to like Doug Cooley, who's a great friend of mine, Ridiculous Rex. But we've even had this conversation about like territorial behavior with the Leachianus. He keeps them in exoteras, clear sides, no problems, because they're only territorial of that cork hollow that they've made their nest. The whole enclosure is not that way, so you can do your maintenance a lot easier. Gabby, Morph Menagerie, also has a pair of Pine Isles, but they're in all black. And she videos the one female because she's insane, because she's
Yeah.
territorial. And so I think that has a lot to do with temperament too. It's really understanding the psyche. There's a fish breeder, his name's Eric Bodrock. He has this ism he says, be the fish. And he's known for breeding really rare Plecostomus. And his breakthrough was like, why am I not breeding? And he's like, well, a happy fish is going to breed. And he surmised that he wasn't keeping any other fish in the enclosure with his Plecostomus. And so they thought a predator was around because all the other fish are going to get scarce when a predator is around. So
Ah,
they're
gotcha.
stressed out. And so he started entering top fish. He had never had better results. I think the same thing applied to reptiles, any species. You can put yourself in that animal's psyche and what they're naturally programmed to do, you're going to inherently have success. And so I think that can be applied to temperament too. If you know the animal, you're going to have better success. right?
Hmm.
I even tell
Sure.
people at shows I'll be handling an animal, and I'll do this, and I'll be like, these are my go buttons, and you're gonna press go, and so the animal, you know how they posture on the edge of your hands and they leap. Well, I teach people how to get them to leap because sometimes people get startled, they don't know when it's coming. I'll say to the client, tap the butt. And they'll tap the butt, and the animal will jump, and the kids get a big laugh out of it. But you're understanding the animal. You are setting that client up for success. And so I think that that's a big differentiator as well. You know, it's all about that good first experience. And if you can do everything in your power to empower your client, then you're going to have a good result.
Agreed. But let's go back to the temperature thing before I forget.
Okay.
So what did you mean by that? The temperament of the animal could be, it has, what correlation does it have with the incubation temperature?
You know, it's been a little while since I read their write up, but the Gilpins a while ago they did a study, a temperature incubation study with their
Hmm.
crested geckos. And I think they even did it for Chihuahua and Leachianus. I think it was like a complete study. I think they were helping Rapace out with it, but don't quote me on that. But basically, I
Hmm.
read the write up and they found that like color, the hotter you incubated, the more vibrant the color, but then the structure of the animal in the robust size went down. And from also my own experience where I accidentally cooked a clutch, where they hatched, they were like unknowingly incubating at like 78 degrees. These things
Hmm.
hatched in like 45 days. And when they hatched, they flew out of the egg. It wasn't even like a normal, like, I'm alive. It was like a, let's go, I'm out. And it never got better. And so that personal experience reinforced everything that I had heard from other people.
Yeah, the way I see it is that it's, reptiles in particular, their metabolism is kind of like, it reacts to the environment. And
Totally.
as we know, reptiles are cold blooded. The warmer it is outside, the more active they are.
Right.
And you get something, you incubated an animal hotter, warmer, then it's gonna speed up that metabolism, and in turn is gonna make an animal that, Paul Murlock actually mentions this, where he says that you not only will the egg life be, shorter, but the
Mm.
actual animal's life, because the metabolism sped up, will be shorter. He
Oh,
theorizes that. And Paul's not a, spring chicken. He's been around
no, he's an
for a long
OG.
time, so he knows what he's talking about. And it's interesting to when I heard him say that.
Yeah.
um Now, Kevin, my last question for you, brother.
All right, brother.
What I want your honest opinion on the Gold Standard Gecko Club. How can we make it better? What do you think is good? What can we improve on? I want your thoughts on that.
No, I think it's been a great experience. I was really stoked. I was probably one of the first people that reached out. I don't know if I was, but I think I was, because you had pitched it to me the year before, and you're like, "I want to do this, I'm doing it." And we had always, I keep dogs. I have two dogs. I love my dogs, and that's kind of where this, your idea stemmed from. And I was like, "That's such a good idea because it's needed."
Yeah.
Especially with the advent of all these morphs. Because unfortunately, and this is a personal opinion, people can bark back if they'd like, but I just kind of think some of those hallmarks that we're talking about have been put to the wayside in pursuit of these combos and some of these morphs. And so I think that what you're doing is going to reward the people who are doing it the slow, long way, in the right way. And you're going to set a foundation for the community. And, I know some people are probably like, oh, it's a popularity contest, this, that, and the other. I can virtually guarantee you that the guests are not going to give anybody preferential treatment because at the end of the day, there's more than one judge. And I think, I think it was five judges last time, six.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so we each animal gets judged by at least three judges. So, and not just that, but so I'm very particular with the judges. Like
Right,
we've been talking, I've been around the hobby for a long time, so I know a lot of
right.
people for a long time. So
Yes.
I kind of, you know, go with people in my gut that I know are gonna be more fair or that are not in like a particular clique, let's say. And we don't, when we judge these animals, a lot of time the judges don't even know what animal. Like I don't give them the animal and necessarily say, "Hey, this one's from Kevin." Okay, make sure like it's
Right.
like a lot of the time we're judging so quick, and we're not even we don't even know
Right.
what gecko is from who. I mean, I do because I set up the event, but my judges don't,
Yeah.
right?
And
So
I think a lot of people probably worry that it's like, oh, I have to bring an animal out of rotation to show. Um, I know I entered a female, but it was because she was to size, and I was confident she didn't have eggs and wasn't breeding. Now, did
yeah,
she have eggs? Yeah, she had eggs, and so that was I whiffed on that one. But if I had my druthers, I would bring a male because that's what you do in the dog world. That's what you
yes,
do in the horse world because that male is then worth its weight in gold. And if I can get that stamp, I'm gonna take it. Anything that validates what I'm seeing, I'm gonna take it, and I'm gonna be a
yeah,
part of it because it's not only good for me, but it's good for my clients. And I always want to be empowering my clients with the product that I'm providing. And I also want to be serving the community because I think people are looking for guidance in it's murky waters out there because there's so many different sources of
yeah.
information that are out there. And I think being able to have visual components to put alongside it will serve a lot of people well for years to come.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think it's important to have a trusted, when especially when you're kind of starting off, have a trusted resource that's going to be able to tell you this is a quality animal.
Absolutely.
It's good here, 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 and look, it beat all these other animals. This is a quality animal,
Right.
and when like for example in the 2024 show, the best of show was Smoke Show, which
Right.
was owned by Nick Dodge, and Nick's not particularly a like super well-known breeder, but he told me, and that was my whole thing about this thing is like I'm not this is the popularity contest. First of all, some people are popular because they have badass animals. But I want to give the opportunity for the maybe not well known breeder to be right up there with the more popular breeders.
Totally.
And it's our job to be fair and breed these animals on one standard that we could say, listen, Altitude Exotics might be known by everybody, but Smoke Show is actually the best gecko here. And
Right.
nobody knows Nick at that time, but then people start to get to know him. And he was telling me that, like, people just are taking all his Smoke Show offspring. So that was something that I was really happy for, really proud of, is that I kind of like helped him do that and put a spotlight on him when maybe some people might have not known about him before,
Right.
unless they're like super hardcore.
Right.
Um, so yeah, man. I mean, again, the Gold Standard Gecko Club, it's not perfect by any means, but it is something that it's a passion project. It's for me, it's like we've been talking about this whole episode where we care about lineage, we care about these things that go beyond the very surface level color
Yeah.
and pattern that we see on these animals. So I want to make sure that the animals are healthy first and foremost. I want to make sure that they're a complete package, not just really bright
Right.
red or whatever. And that's why ultimately we're putting it on. And so
Yeah.
we did, you won at this past what's it called, Gold Standard Gecko Club in May in Flora Fauna. But now we're gonna do the next one in Daytona, which I'm super excited about because a lot of people. This is a much bigger show, so I feel like a lot more people are gonna join, and we're gonna see higher a level of competition. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
so
I've been thinking about flying down and taking part in the party, so I might have to break out I might bring a male this time.
oh,
Might
that'd be awesome.
might ship him down to you, see if he takes home gold. So we'll see.
Yeah,
He's
that'd be good to see. Well, we'll definitely we're gonna make a big announcement soon on when the
good.
registration's opening. But I'm excited, man. This
Yeah.
Daytona's my backyard basically, so we're gonna do it big.
I love that show. I mean, it's so fun. I mean, the hotel's right on the beach,
Oh
and
my
you get
god.
to walk to the expo, and you're wearing shorts and sandals. I mean, like I wore a swimsuit to the show. Like it's sweet, and then you go
It's
hang out with
Florida,
your
bro.
friends. It's awesome. So, if anybody's on the fence about going or doing it or vending, I highly recommend it. It's a
Thank
blast.
you, thank you. Can't wait. All right, my man. I'm gonna let you go. I don't know if you ate dinner already. I know you were cooking it up
I did.
right
I ate.
before this, but
Yeah,
I
man.
now I gotta go eat dinner now. So,
All right, brother.
Kevin, appreciate you, man. Thank you for hopping on. Let everybody know where they could find you. Instagram, Facebook. What? Let them know.
Yeah, yeah. Instagram, Facebook, Morph Market. I'm also on. Very quiet though. But we're going to be putting up some auctions soon, and I'll announce those on my Instagram story. Um,
And Fireside Geckos on
yeah,
everything.
Fireside Geckos on everything. Yep, Fireside Geckos. Yep.
All right, y'all.
Yeah,
You
that's it,
heard it
man.
here.
Well, thank you again. I appreciate everything, and you're a real one. It's been a lot of
Thank you,
fun.
brother. Appreciate you, man. I'll see you next one.
All right, later.
Peace.